Well, this is another in our series of interviews with veterans in Almaquee County. Our guest today is Rupert Caballero of Walk-On, a veteran of the Korean War. And you'll hear me address him as Cabby, which everybody does in this area, most likely. Okay, Cabby, let's get started in your early years as you grew up with your family in Owine, Iowa.
Well, we grew up in Owine, and my dad was a railroad man, and so going through school at Owine, we played a little football and had some wrestling done. And then when we graduated in 1948, why either you could go to work at the railroad, which my dad didn't like because he worked there, and then you could go to Waterloo, and you could. We had Deweese bus lines, 3 buses a day that would be taking workers to, like John Deere, Rath Company, and some pump company, but anyway, there were factories in Waterloo, so that's what happened. So our decision was to, well, what are we going to do at the graduation? And there's a bunch of guys that got together, and we said, well, I couldn't afford to go to college, so we said, well, if we go to the service, why then we'll get the GI Bill. So then 5 of us decided to go to the Marines. 1 went to the Air Force, and the other went in the Navy. So that was 7 of us that went to the service in 1948 from our graduating class.
Okay, and 1 was your brother.
And one was my twin brother, right? And I have a younger brother that he also joined the Marine Corps, and but that was about 5 years later.
Okay, and then when you joined the Corps, what was your first assignment?
Okay, our first assignment after boot camp, why then I was stationed in Guam, and we were there for about 18, 19 months. And what we did there was practice on military tactics, and we were assuming that we were going to be there 3 years. And so then out of the about 18 or 19 months, why we got home, and we said, well, you can go on leave. And so we went on leave, and I think we were home 10 days. And we got a call that we were supposed to report back to Camp Pendleton. Well, we went to Camp Pendleton, and sure enough, we heard that we had good news. We were extended for a year, and that we were going to go to Korea.
Okay.
So that was my assignment.
Okay, so when you were extended, you went on a transport ship?
We went on a transport ship, and at that time, we also had some Marine reserves that were attached to us, and I think they did that on purpose because we had some of the regulars and the reserves mixed in. And so, and some of those boys really were ex-Marines, and some were just young guys.
Okay.
And so we had to get acquainted with them, and aboard ship then we had our assignments, and we went to Busan, and that was we were going to take that perimeter, and they told us, now this is going to be your last dinner or breakfast before you get off the ship. You better eat well. So they gave us steak and eggs. We left with full pack. And we started right that day. We got off the ship, went out on the dock, and we went right into the field. So we started our military tactics from day one.
Wow. Okay, you go out into the field near Busan, and when did you start, running into North Korean, snipers?
Okay. We started running with North Korean troops, probably the second, and for sure the second day, because we left with full pack early in the morning, and they said, you be ready to fight. So we were, and then as we moved, we had 3 companies, and then we each had 3 squads to our companies. So what we would do then, we would trade every 3 days. One day you would be up front, and you would handle the frontage, and then the next 2 days, why we would go to the reserve. And on the reserve there, you'd get a chance to get rested, because when you were on the front line, you were there 24/7. And so we were there like sometime 2 days, sometime 3 days. And it really depended on the terrain that would determine what kind of fighting we were going to get involved with.
Now, so in other words, you were assigned the point from time to time.
Yeah, we were assigned a point every 3 days.
Wow, okay.
Every 3 days we were assigned point, and then you would go back to backup, and then from backup you'd go to reserve, where you'd get a chance to recoup, and then on the next third day you'd be up front again. So.
Okay, and you had interpreters, is that correct?
And we had some interpreters with us, and they were really helpful. And when you were up front, you determined whether you needed air power, whether we needed mortars, or whether we needed artillery, or whether we needed the Air Force. And we had a Marine Corps wing that was terrific for us. And then we had a tank unit, and these would come up as we were instructed by the ROKs, they called them, and they were interpreters.
Republic of South Korea.
Right.
Okay.
And they would help us with some of the tactics. So they would determine whether we needed either the tanks for that particular frontage, or if we needed air power, or if we needed the artillery.
Was it kind of tough? North Korean tanks would be camouflaged with brush and stuff, weren't they?
Oh yeah, no. I remember one case where we had to clean up this town and our village, and as we were going through here, there was a kind of it was a grass shack. And it was set kind of on a side, and it looked kind of funny. So we had some of our members check, and here it was covered with a tank inside. And so they were ready to fire on us once we got through that main line that we were aggressing. So it really was something that you just had to keep your toes.
For sure. Now, at that time that you're talking about, did you have air cover, air support?
We had air support, and I'll tell you a story about the air support. First of all, they were terrific, and they would use napalm bombs. So they would have one napalm bomb, and as we were advancing, the plane would come, and it would come down about, I hate to say the number of feet, but they were pretty low, but we wanted them low because when that napalm would hit the ground, it would just splash fire where we were supposed to be advancing. So that was the good part. And what would happen, they were so low that on those napalm bombs, they had a kind of a spring. And on those springs, you could feel them fall off and hit on your helmet. So that's how close they were to us. So, but we appreciated the closeness of them, because they sure put out a lot of fire.
I thought you mentioned once in the book, the Veterans book in Almaquee County, that you thought about picking up a couple of those springs. They had to be red hot, though, weren't they?
Yeah. Oh, they should have been. Yeah. No, okay. We didn't have time to pick them up.
Oh, I know. Well, you're in the middle of it now.
Yeah, we're in the middle of every day.
When did the most intense fighting occur?
Okay, the most intense fighting came on the 19th of August. Okay, so in other words, we were on the front for 19 days, back and forth with the three companies. All right, on the 19th, we knew we were heading for the Naktong River, and as we were approaching the Naktong River, we were up high on a hilly mountain, and we could see the river, and so that was going to be our objective for the next day. The higher brass knew that we were going to be in a big fight, and of course, as non-coms, we were just going with the flow, and so we got there a little late, and that was kind of a sore spot because we had to dig in. We could see where we were going to go the next morning, but we dug our foxholes, and we really didn't get them too deep just because we didn't have enough time, and because it was getting dark. And so we had our one company to the left of us, one company to the right, and we were in the middle, and which I think kind of caused us a little problem. Well, that night, or early morning, at about 2 o'clock, we had a heck of a battle. And what happened, the North Koreans had broke through the one company to the other company to our left. And so here we had crossfire. And there were bullets flying all over. And that's when I got wounded. And so then that morning, well, the morning broke. And then what happened is that as we were in the field, of course, we regrouped, and they were going on advancing toward the Nactong River. But I never did get to see or get close to the Nactong River because I was, shot.
Shipped out, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when you were hit,
yes, I was very lucky when I got hit because I didn't hit any bones. And it just, when what it did, it kind of punctured my lung. But I remember, and this will be a good story for Boy Scouts. In the Boy Scouts in first aid, you learn how to protect a wound, you stop the bleeding, and protect the wound. That's what was taught to me. So my Boy Scout days came through. I stuck my finger in that hole to stop the bleeding. And this was like early in the morning. And daybreak was coming, and we were hollering for corpsmen. And because our company, our squad really got hit hard. And so when you would holler corpsman, you see, we didn't know, and the corpsman didn't know whether you were a real U.S. Soldier or whether you were a North Korean. So you'd have to be very careful. So what had happened is that when I was hollering for a corpsman, why then I heard one of my fellow guys that I didn't know, and he said, I remember this Rupert Caballero. He was on our squad in Guam when I was stationed there.
you had yelled out your name.
Yeah, and so that's how I got a corpsman, and I got attention, which probably saved my life. But to this day, I didn't know who the guy was, and so I wound up in the corpsman. Then they came and they patched me up, and then I kind of blanked out there. And the last I knew, I was on a railroad train going back to Busan, and then from there we went ahead. And when I kind of come to there, I was laying on the dock with several other Marines, and what had happened, they had the only thing I remember seeing, I was looking up because I was laying on a stretcher. Why, there was a big arm that would come. It was a hoist, and they would take and put us on those hospital ships. And we had two ships, and they would alternate. When one ship got full, a hospital ship, well, then the other one would come in and take over. And what had happened, I was on the oh golly, what was the name of that ship?
Constellation?
Yeah, on the Constellation. Right. And then I got put on there, and boy, that was an immaculate hospital. Oh my golly, you couldn't believe it. So the thing I knew, I was looking up, and I was looking at some lights, and some doctors were working on me. And so then from there, then they took us to Japan, at Yokosuka, Japan. And there was a hospital there, and they had us there, and so I had my convalescent leave there, and I was there for about 30 days.
Let's go back a little ways. When you were hit, show me on your body where you were hit.
Right here.
Okay.
Right here.
Were you able to, you got into a little indentation in the side of the hill there?
Yes,
okay.
Right. And those snipers could see, and of course I felt that they were very bad shots because they'd be shooting and they wouldn't be hitting.
Yeah, you mentioned the sand flying.
Oh, yes, so, but then that's what happened, yes.
Okay. Okay, how long was your recovery?
Okay, 30 days, well, about approximately, 30 days from out of the hospital. But then from the hospital, if you were wounded bad enough, they would take you by plane to the States, or you'd go aboard ship, and then you'd come back. And for some reason or other, that ship, it seemed like it took awful long to get back to the States. And so we were on there, and then when we come back to the States, well, then I was going to Treasure Island and ready for my next assignment. So by that time, I was in pretty good shape. My only problem was that I had fluid in my lungs, and they'd have to aspirate that and when the fluid was in there, it was great. But when it got to the end, it looked like my insides were just coming out. It really hurt. But but no. So then that's what happened with the wound, and then I was stationed in Point Magoo, which was a guided missile test center, and.
That was for how long?
That was for about the rest of my time in this.
And where were you discharged from?
Well, from Point Magoo.
Okay, right. All right. Okay. All right, that's a wonderful. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
It's not. I know you received a Purple Heart, which you don't talk about
No.
any of your medals.
Yeah, no.
But you deserved it.
Well, thank you, Chuck.
And you. Okay, so you were discharged, and then you returned to the States. What then?
Okay, well, we said we were going to go to school, and because we had the money now, because the GI Bill pulled us through, and so I've got to commend the United States
absolutely
for going to the paying for our college, and then also I went to Iowa City to the hospital, and I would get a checkup every year. And we have a wonderful program here right here in Albuquerque County where they take us on a van.
Yes.
And we just get off the van and get to the hospital. They pick us up, and it's marveling that what they're doing here, right here in our county.
Yeah. Okay, so you get to walk on in 1966.
66.
Okay, so you're done with college. You got the GI Bill, and matter of fact, your wife Martha taught too. You taught school.
Yep.
And then Martha. Okay.
We started she started in Maynard, Iowa, and then that year, in 1956, we got married, and then we both taught at Arlington, and we stayed there for 6 years. And I was, believe it or not, a football coach for 6 years. And, I decided I'm not going to be a coach for the rest of my life. So I wanted to get into administration. So from Upper Iowa, we went to the University of Iowa, and I received my administration certificate. And then from there, I went to Ringstead, Iowa, and I taught there for 4 years. And then in 1966, came here to walk on.
Okay, and then principal at West Elementary?
West Elementary, and I had 5 country schools to code to, and I would check on the Waterville, and check Dorchester, and check Harpers Ferry, because we all had buildings there, and I was really the elementary director for that period of time, and then I transferred to
junior high?
To the junior high. And I relieved Elmer Cooley, which was a great guy.
I remember Elmer, yes.
To follow. And he was a good golfer.
Yeah, Elmer liked the game, just like you do. You like the game, too. Yeah. Okay, well, I guess, is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
No, Chuck, I'm blessed here with being in Waukon. I said I was going to be here for about 5 years and move on, and it's going to be like 60... about 55 years. I've been retired 23 years, so I'm getting close. So.
And folks, this man is 92 years old, by the way.
Oh, I shouldn't say
Unbelievable. That's terrific.
But,
okay, what I wanted to add, my kids had you as a principal in junior high, the best principal they ever had.
Oh, I thank you.
That's a fact, yeah. I hear that often. So, Cabby, thanks a lot.
Okay, well, thank you, and thanks, Waukon, for taking care of me.
We appreciate your time, and we'll be bumping into you on the golf course.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this has been another in our series of veteran interviews for the Albuquerque County Veterans Museum. And God bless America, and God bless our veterans.